Yep.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Always Right podcast. Jamie's sitting like he's like,
I wrote a book
what's
once.
happening
Yep.
here?
I don't even know why that came to my mind.
Oh my gosh, you're funny.
All right.
All right, you got it out?
I'm falling apart because,
Yeah,
yeah,
you are.
actually, it's kind of leading into what we're talking about.
Yeah, falling apart. Yeah. What happens when it falls apart at the end?
I just fell apart at the
Before we
beginning.
start that though, I didn't tell you this in our pregame. So I have been a self-proclaimed, fan of Stephanie Meyer and her writing as far as like Twilight and the hosts and all that stuff. And I read what I thought was everything. And apparently I'm not as big of a fan as I thought I was because we were at Barnes and Noble and on the shelf,
What?
Stephanie Meyer put a book out in 2016 and I knew nothing about it. I don't know why she didn't email me. I don't know why she didn't tell me.
Why didn't she call you? Stephanie,
I don't
if you're watching this podcast, start paying attention.
Right. Start texting me, Stephanie.
Exclamation point.
We saw on the shelf at Barnes and Noble, but then Dylan was immediately on Amazon and he's like, it's cheaper on Amazon. I'm like, order it. Let's order this.
I do.
So,
It's sad. I do. My wife likes to go to the bookstore. She wants to look around all the trinkets, and she'll buy a physical book. And I'm like, man, it's $37 here. It's $18 on Amazon. So
yeah.
of course
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Amazon. It might take a while to get here since they don't have as many UPS drivers, but it'll get here.
Yeah. Well, what are we going to do when we can't get things so quickly?
I don't know. My video guy, Sean Daniel, he works the video production company with Brad Bear, one of his partners, and he sends me a picture of Brad's front porch. And I kid you not, there were more UPS Amazon boxes sitting on his front porch yesterday than what you would have around a Christmas tree if you were a spoiled kid. I'm like, what in the world? There are probably 20, 30 boxes. I'm not exaggerating.
Hey, what was he ordering?
I don't know if it was another computer stuff for his business. It could be they're building a pontoon. They bought one rebuilding it. I'm like,
It's like the Acme put together kit that the Roadrunner and
yeah, I know.
Wile E.
He's
Coyote.
gonna
Like,
get
I
mad.
need to put this in.
He's gonna get mad if he watches this. But if he would spend time on fixing his T-shirt printing machine, so I can have new T-shirts instead of building a pontoon boat, he's like, yeah, just berate me.
Jamie, are you seriously calling someone out for their ADHD and they're like all different projects when you
Yeah, but that's
yourself
what
have
he does
several?
every day. He makes T-shirts and he does car wraps and all this. I just don't want to wear the same T. I'm like a Sean Daniel Media, oops, I shirt myself T-shirt wearing crazy fanatic. That's about all I wear unless I'm in the podcast.
You just shop at his store.
I do, but then I have to wait for 40 other people to come in. I'm like, just print me some. Go get me 16 black T-shirts and do a Vendera Publishing and Always Right, a Voice But Stronger. Just do all my logos and just load me up.
That's funny.
All right.
Well, speaking about this, it just seems like it's all falling apart.
It is. I might as well drink more water.
Yes. Stay hydrated while you're falling apart. So today's episode, back to the actual stuff we want to talk about, falling apart at the end. You've come so far with writing and now your story's just falling apart. Now that you've made it to the end and you're like, just falling apart. Do you scrap it? Do you start over? What do you do? How do you get your story back in order? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I was going to say that's never happened to me. But really, in truth, it did because Raise Your Voice took me 4 years to write, and it wasn't because of writer's block. It was like me thinking, which chapter should I put first? Did I say enough? Am I legally okay to say this? Is it medically, do I gotta watch this? And I would get mad and I just put it away. I'm done. I'm not writing a book. I'm not smart enough to finish a book. I was stay a construction worker. So
yes, I mean, well, yeah, okay. So that's a good point, like a bullet point. There is the common narratives for a story breakdown. So what would be some of those common things that you think, like you said, you don't think you're good enough?
yeah.
What are some of the things that you feel break your story down to failing and you feel like, oh, it's
I
never going to be
mean, you
able
don't
to.
think you're good enough or smart enough. You're not a professional. Why, there's already 50 books in that fiction genre, or, that nonfiction area. What difference is your book going to make? How can I spin it? Am I plagiarizing? Am I plagiarizing? Am I plagiarizing? Am I just spitting out what I've already learned from others? Because when you do a book, you want to have something different. And, there are
Pause
people.
that. Could you pause? Why are you trying to do 2 episodes in one? We're talking about that next.
That's true, but you know what? Shh, it was a secret lead-in. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, listen to the next episode. He's going to further that plagiarism
Yeah, I'll
statement.
be like,
Okay.
okay, to continue my conversation, but
Yes.
the one that got me is what you said, which kind of freaked me out about Canvas. When you're talking about, oh my
Oh,
gosh. So
yes.
I'll let you talk about that because I can see that so happening.
Yeah, okay. So like this is something like a plot that you didn't realize had already been taken because I put out when I buy or not buy, when I create a book title, I always check Amazon to make sure that book title doesn't exist. And so the plot for Canvas originally was that there were 2 serial killers. And the first one had left their victims like famous paintings, but scattered them all over the place to where you couldn't connect the pieces. And then all of a sudden, he stops killing people and then starts these killings start up again because there's a new serial killer doing the same thing, but it's like it's a female, and then the point was they fell in love and didn't realize that he didn't realize she was the serial killer too, and like it's this whole love story. And but again, they leave them like famous paintings. And of course a lot of the details in the story were like different. Leaving the victims like famous paintings, I'm straight on Netflix watching, I think it's called The Postcard, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch this. And then I'm like, oh crap, this is canvassed. And I'm like, because it's a couple who are all over Europe leaving murder victims like famous paintings and leaving clues on a postcard for the thing. I'm like, it's the famous painting part that was like the similarity. I'm like, ugh. It was very, it was very like I was like, ugh, I've got to change canvas because I can't redo this because this has already been done. And I forget who it was, like John Grisham or one of the other famous guys who writes stuff like that. He had done this like 10 years ago. And I'm like, crap, I have to refocus canvas. So I was very kind of not depressed, but very um
Yeah, he
frustrated.
should have texted you too
I
to
know,
prove
right?
this.
Well, I mean, him and I don't read his books. So in
Oh,
fair
that's
game,
why he
I
quit
would.
texting you. Okay.
Yeah. I don't read his books, so that wasn't really my thing. But I did like the visual part of it. I'm like, well, it was done well. The postcard, I like the movies, so the book was probably really good too. But yeah, so for me, I was like, I've got to take a new direction. I love the name Canvas. I didn't want to change it, so I still want to use something that deals with paintings, but I'm taking it in a whole different direction. What we're using the paintings for. So I just had to restructure that, especially since now I've added that supernatural element to it.
Well, I
But
love that you say that structure because let's be honest, Twilight, 50 Shades of Grey comes out, and everybody and their brother, mother, and sister, and father and uncle and former cousin's roommate thinks they're an author. And there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
But be original. Don't like, ooh, I love 50 Shades of Grey. Let me write 57 Shades of Black. And we saw a lot of that on Amazon. All these people just not so much plagiarizing, since that's our next episode, but kind of reading and getting caught up in it and making a very similar story.
right. Yeah.
And
Well,
we,
and go ahead.
no, that's it. My ring camera went off. I'm like, quit, go, turn off. Don't let me know that.
And so that kind of is another reason why I feel like the reader disconnect. So if you're doing a replicate, a lot of people do want storylines. We've talked about this before. They do want storylines that if you like this, you'll probably like that. So
Absolutely.
there is a little connection when it comes to piggybacking on similar types of work. But there is a disconnect if your pacing in your storyline is way too similar to where it disengages your reader. So I feel like that's something that could probably when you're at the end, you feel that falling apart. It's like because it's not connecting maybe your alpha and beta readers, you're like, oh, this is falling apart. I made a personal, even though, so this, we've revamped how we do our notes now.
Yep.
Instead of
I
me
love it.
giving all of these things to think about
Cause
and
then I
like,
go and I break down my
it's
like
like
it
that's
cannot compute.
too many words.
What you talk about? I'm reading now. It's still too many words. No, I'm teasing.
Stop it. It's like what? Like I have like
I
10
love
things
it.
in here.
No, the importance of structure, character arcs, and resolution. I'm like, all right, we
But on
get.
my personal end, as I'm thinking about these things, I have a personal list that I have my own notes. And so some of the things that I was thinking about, various reasons that potentially a
Oh, I love you. I just realized. So you mean you made me a bullet point list, but you got another list. You
yes,
do
I have
love
I have
me.
a secret list. I have a secret recipe list.
That
Um,
works.
yes. So when it comes down to the loss of coherence in your story, I think about this a lot whenever I'm writing chapters, but rushing things. Um, and I've talked about a story that I read that one time that was like 30 pages, and so many things happened in that 30 pages. It was rushed. Like
Yeah.
I feel like there were a lot of points in in that story she could have, as an author, brought out more and not rushed everything. Um, and the characterization of things, like making sure that when we've talked about this before, being coherent. When your story can fall apart is when you don't keep it consistent. So if you start your story, I know another author who did this. They took, and they still haven't published this book, by the way. They took several years, like 8 to 10 years, to write a book. And then I put mine out, and they were very kind of like rushing to get theirs out next too, because it was a situation where it's like, oh yeah, you did that. I'm just going to do it. So they got their story together. They sent it to their friend who's a publisher, and they're like, you know what? You've got like 3 stories going on here. So it was very inconsistent because they didn't take the time to coherently write it along the way. They just kept throwing stuff in there, not realizing it wasn't matching the beginning.
Yeah. But that, you know what? When you get to the end, if you care like Carissa does, you're like, wow, this has already been done, and you're not the author mindset like, oh, I'm just doing another 50 Shades of Grey. You really have to look outside the box. You know what? Every book I've written fiction wise, it's inspired by like Kill Factor is inspired by James Bond. And but I wanted to make it a little different, a little darker. And so I gave him like kind of like Captain America had the super serum soldier. So there's crossovers from everything I like, but the arc is completely different than watching a James Bond movie or watching an Avengers movie. So it's finding your way through, because if you get to the end and you're on Netflix like Carissa and you're like, oh my gosh, I just read a werewolf book and it's the same twin werewolf brothers. Why did
Yeah.
I do
Well,
that?
that's what's really cool about Catherine Horsley, one of our authors, is she took a very oversaturated market of vampires and did a different spin on it. She has these essential memoirs or the journals and the life journal
Vampire
of
Diaries. No, I'm
vampire.
joking.
No, no. She took a way better spin on that. I mean, because I stopped watching Vampire Diaries, but I feel like she took a different focus. So she took a theme that is oversaturated, or not oversaturated because I love vampires, that's very saturated, and found a way to put herself different. She created a theme that sets itself apart, essentially.
Yes.
So yeah, so
Yeah, because I know if people got into her book, they'll be like, wow, I love vampires. I've read every vampire book out there.
hmm
Okay, this is it's more realistic,
hmm
so.
yeah, yeah. So um, something else that I feel like with Crystal Gate, and I mean, a lot of these things that we talk about are things I've learned from my own personal mistakes. That I would probably, whenever I decide to revamp Crystal Gate and put out a third book, I will take into consideration and put out like a new addition to same storyline, just maybe more depth to it.
Hmm.
Um, but always making sure you're sufficiently foreshadowing the beginning to end. Like I had the dream of the end of the book for Crystal Gate. I just had to get there. So foreshadowing, laying it out essentially in your mind to where it's consistent, towards the end. I know that you are not an outliner, you're a prancer, but you still have an
I'm
idea
more of
of
a
what the
dancer or
story.
vixen. I'm not really for sure which of the two, but
But you have an idea of what your story is about.
yeah, overall, I have a theme of it, and this is where I got to watch because this is where I could have ran into trouble. Like you say, you get to the end and it falls apart. I watch if I'm doing a fantasy, I'll watch every fantasy show I can find on Prime or on Netflix, and that will inspire me. But I got to pay attention to myself. Be like, yeah, don't go there.
Mhm.
Or I'll dive in like I did the space opera with Phoenix Earth, and they're on the moon, and they find this building is essentially made of glass because of the
Mhm.
atmosphere. And so I'll do some like research, like has that been done before? And I'm sure it has. So
Right.
if I run into something like that,
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the plagiarism episode too, is, things have been done. It's
yep,
hard to like,
yeah, it's hard to
fiction.
get past that.
Yeah.
So, but that could give you. I don't want to jump ahead, but if you're in a situation, you could think about if you have, like you said, you had the dream for the end,
Mhm.
and if you find something similar, like then sit there and plot out two or three other endings.
Yeah.
Think
Yeah.
how could this be different, and then it will force you to restructure from the middle of the book on.
Well, and that is a good segue to the alternate endings bullet point that whenever so this is something that I had a conversation with Willow and with her book when she told me her book, because she has 3 books in the series that are eventually going to be done. Her first book will be coming out sometime early this summer. um when you're deciding your ending is and you're leading your reader on point A and point B, okay, literally have do not disturb on. Why is stuff coming through?
Is
It's like
it
you.
the text thread about the cats and dog?
No,
Oh, I would have got
no.
that ping too. What am I saying?
I was like, you would have got that ping to do. Yeah. No, so if you have led your readers, and this is what I like to do, if you have led your readers onto A or B, always give a C,
Yeah,
you know? Don't let them see the C, just kind of like hide it in there like little sprinkles throughout, but lead them down A and B and have an alternate ending that they didn't see coming. That's
I
my
think.
thoughts.
I mean, I would say I write like that, and I do, but I mean, I write in a predictable way. However, in the '80s, I was so into those choose your own adventure books that
Hmm.
I will think of different ways. So if I ran into that, I'm pretty sure if like, oh my gosh, there's a new series on Netflix, same thing, I'd be like, oh, I'll just change it to my other ending that I had in the back of my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's a good point. Oh, I lost everything there. That's another good point, talking about going through and searching out endings, like maybe typing that in and seeing if there's an ending to a storyline like that. With AI now, you can Google something and it'll be like, oh, yeah, you can type in book ending and then kind of like put it out there, maybe some keywords, and it'll bring up stuff that's similar.
You could. I joined this group on Facebook. It was like old movies that you forgot, and you put in like, hey, like I did ones like, hey, these people were on a beach, but they couldn't get out in the water because it was electric, and there was these monsters, and they're like, oh yeah, 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 it's this one. You could do the same. You could even don't even ask AI if there's something similar. Say, hey, what is that book about the triplet vampires, but their brother's a werewolf married to a genie? Da 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 da. Oh yeah, it's this book. You're like, snap! It already exists. So yeah,
That's
AI
funny.
is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and that was another. So I was going to give an AI version and a human version of what you could do in a situation once you get to a certain point of your book. You feel like, okay, I just don't know what to do. Go find some honest alpha readers, beta readers, arc readers. Go find some of these people who are willing to give you some feedback and say, well, this is where I was losing it. This is what you weren't being consistent here. What actually happens to this character? Because you built this here and you forgot to give me uh, you didn't, what am I word? A resolution. You didn't resolve the issue from the beginning that you gave me. So now I have no idea what happened with this character. Or, so like, how many questions are you going to have by the end of the book that I didn't answer? Kind of thing. And so you can do that with a reader. what
Yeah,
you can
there's
do.
got to be good ARC reader sites out there. I know there is specifically
Well,
for that.
yeah, and there's a lot of groups on Facebook, people who are willing to read. Yeah. So and you just got to kind of search those out. And we have an episode where we talk about some writing communities. Maybe go listen to that and see some of the ones that we've put out there that we found that are top rated. Um, Another thing, I mean, you could always go to a writing seminar or a writing class and stuff like that to help kind of rehone how to do that, and maybe get some critique that way. But if you are okay with using AI and you have a pretty decent AI software, like the DeepSeek or the Superbot, I'm not talking about the basic like Open AI, but if you have like some of the newer ones, you can load up your PDF of your file and say and ask it to read it and suggest plot holes and questions that may be asked about characters or situations, and it will give you thought processes of your storyline. That's just an AI version. So you can do human version or AI. I'm not going to judge either way. I use both, but you know,
Someday there'll be a human AI hybrid.
I think
Maybe we'll
that's already
write
been.
about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, essentially, when you have people, so there is this thing called Inspire. My dad has this, and it's put in here, and he could change the frequency of how high or low it is for when he's sleeping. Instead of putting the oxygen mask on him to
Hmm.
keep him, it will change his tongue, and it'll even make him talk funny if he does it while he's awake. But it keeps him from for sleep apnea.
Wow,
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, and it's controlled by a mouse. So it's like a little computer thing that he puts
that's
over like a little
insane.
mouse. Yeah. And then my uncle, he has something, he wasn't able to walk well. He has something now in his back put in his spine, and now he can walk.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So as far as people being somewhat computer generated, we've already got computers in our bodies that we're using, pacemakers. All these things are keeping us alive as slight cyborg.
And it's just the beginning.
This is just the beginning, darling. I mean, theoretically, I'm sure someone has probably tried to experiment with detaching the human brain and attaching it to a cyborg body.
I mean, you've even heard, oh, I'm going to die, so they're going to cut off my head and cryogenically freeze it until the time in the future when they can attach me to a metal body and let me live for another 100 years. So, and
Yeah.
that's probably really happening.
Well, there are movies about that where the consciousness comes out of the body
Yep.
and is put into a new one. And there's that one movie, oh my gosh, and I'm pretty sure it has what's his face from Deadpool guy,
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds in it, where that's what they do is they insert someone's consciousness into a more physical body. But like it's like rich people pay to be in someone's body or something, but yeah, something like the person overrides it somehow.
They got a new movie out too. I forget who. I think it's Edward Cullen. I think he's the main actor. Well, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, it is. It's Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, Pattinson, where he dies again and again and again and
Yeah.
again.
And it's
Yes.
funny because his voice is really weird in it, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'll still watch it,
Yep.
but he's a very good actor.
Oh, he
I
is.
hate that sometimes he's typecasted only as Edward Cullen because he's very good in Batman. There's
I
a
think
movie
he's
called
phenomenal in Batman. I don't know
Yeah.
why they give him such slack. I'm like, whatever. He
Well, when
seems
I went to
so
MegaCon, I was very happy to see a lot of the Batman collages included him.
good.
That they didn't forget about him. I mean, some of them didn't have Ben Affleck in it, so I'm like, okay. But no, he's also in a movie called Tenant. That's really good if you're okay with a little bit of time jumping. That one came out like that was one of the first movies we watched after the whole 2020 shutdown. Was we watched that and it was very good. You just have to be good with alternate dimensional time like loops. But yeah. Anyways, and Remember Me. Oh my gosh, that was such a good movie with him in it
Kind
about
of
9/11.
remember that.
Ah, it's a tearjerker. It's a good one.
So Diane must have watched it. I must have been sitting on the couch eating Twizzlers, and I just don't remember. But it sounds familiar.
Oh man, back when I did carbs and I wasn't as like finicky about carbs, I loved Twizzlers. I would go to the movies, I would get popcorn and Twizzlers.
They are the fruit of junk food.
Well, it's fine. I don't
Yeah.
like licorice, but I like Twizzlers.
Yeah. I like licorice too, but I prefer Twizzlers.
No, I don't like licorice. Licorice is disgusting. Hmm.
Yes, it is a different taste.
Yeah. Okay. Other reasons why. Okay. So we've talked about some of the common reasons your narrative might break down. The importance of structure is key when it comes to maybe even structuring your outline. So you're like, okay, I want to get to point A. How do I get there? And then write those down. Even if it changes along the way, structure out how you want to get to the ending. So you don't feel like along the way you've missed something or you're like, oh,
Yeah,
or
very smart. It's like, hey, how do I get to Portsmouth, Ohio from here? Oh, well, you go down, you go down CC 52, take a right, and it's 20 miles. If I don't give directions to where I want to end up, yeah, you could get lost, in the scenery or whatever. Make sure that it all fits together. Or like you said, that one woman had 3 stories in one novel. That
it was the same story. The story was there. I'm not saying the story wasn't there. I'm saying she jumped so quickly through the storyline. She spent 30 pages going through like a 4 or 5 month period. Well, probably longer than that because it was like this happened, this happened. Oh, now they're married. And now we're bought a house that's haunted, and we went to the Halloween store, but now we're at Thanksgiving dinner. All these things happen in the first 30 pages, but then spent 3 pages on a 1 hour sex scene. So it was inconsistent. Her writing probably would be really amazing. I'm not saying she has the potential to be a really amazing author. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that inconsistency of rushing it, like it was so rushed. I was just like it was just all over the place. Well, not inconsistency. I should say the rushing was it kind of threw me off. So that's what I was talking about with that person.
I thought it was like just 3 multiple personalities, and it was 3 stories
No,
in
I
one
felt
book.
like it was just a very it was an outline that needed more description. Like you need to describe this scene more and not jump to like Thanksgiving dinner. So essentially she again could have been a better storyline. It was just very rushed for me.
So
Yes.
you got a note here, the role of themes, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
So this is talking about how to like reinforce like your core theme throughout. So don't start with a theme in the beginning and then go through your entire story and just the ending just comes and like ending comes back to the beginning. Like there's like Lost. There you go,
Yes,
perfect example. So the perfect example would be the role of themes and Game of Thrones would be you have this build up in the beginning, then you
and
have
then
this
last season sucks.
right. Well, yeah, so you have all this build up and then just the theme just gets lost. The whole cohesiveness and the main conflict, all these things from that you started from the beginning just fall apart. That's
Good.
what I'm talking about.
So for this episode, I know we talked about like you get to the end and there's already a book out very similar. So it's not just about that. It's about if somebody reads your book and they're like, "Man, you lost me by chapter 2. What is this? What I mean, chapter 3 don't even seem like it should have been in there." So you can't get depressed and you can't be married to every word you write. You have to take constructive criticism and read it with a open mind, or run it through AI and say, "Hey, can you check this for consistency? Where am I having plot holes? Is the theme
Yes.
there?"
Yeah, and that's why I feel like we've talked about this. Beta readers are very essential part of your process is, but also preparing yourself for what they give you back. You know, it's okay to have like holes that like okay, at least the holes are now before I've printed it. Before I've decided to put the like. I feel like if you're getting feedback and you don't want to take it,
Then we got a problem.
well, you're gonna have a problem with one, us publishing you, but two, your book's not gonna sell because that just is like I
And
don't
that
know.
type of person be, but my cousin read it and they loved it.
Of
And
course
I've
they
actually had some readers like this. I'm like, okay, all you did was, oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. No, I'm looking
Mhm.
for criticism. Oh no, it was perfect. No way it was perfect, because then I sent it to Rich Dagley. She's like, "Oh my gosh, it's so wordy, and why
All
do you
over the
have?"
place.
Yes, exactly. And telling me when I had those pen names, man, that Jamie Lynn Saunders needs to grow up. She writes like she's 12. I'm like, but I'm 40.
Dang it.
I know. But then I listened, and he's like, wow. I said, give me your feedback and I'll send it to her. Okay, okay. Wow, she really listened to me. I'm glad you passed that on to her.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and so that's another thing. Like when you get these things and you're trying, like even like building up to the climax of your story, maybe it's like again, like the Game of Thrones and the Lost situation where it's like you have this build up to this climax and then you have this ending. You have to make sure that your climax when you're building that the stakes are clear to your reader. You have to make sure that when you're building this, it's like, okay, why are they doing this? And I've had that inner conversation with my characters like why would my character be doing this this is their character in a normal setting they would never be they would never put themselves in this situation so what changes their focus like give me a reason why like doesn't make sense why they would be having this conversation with this person why would they even interact with this person so make sure those things are clear so it doesn't fall apart in the end like this isn't even realistic for me as a reader like this would make no sense.
Yeah, I mean, Lost was so that for me. Put the cork back in. And the other thing that really ticked
Remember.
me off is we had Walt, this young kid who was so special. And then he
Yeah.
got kidnapped off the island, and we don't see him for 3 seasons. And then, someone makes it back and sees him walking down the street. Hey, I'm in school now. You left a complete loose end. You built this up like there was going to be something, and then he's gone. So I hate that in a book or in a television show. Do not
Yeah.
leave any loose ends.
Yeah, don't leave it to where there's now we have said there are certain things you want to allow your reader to kind of figure out themselves. You do not have to give them everything. But main things like that, yes. Like why was he missing? Why do we have all this lead up of the Night King and then nothing when he just gets taken out when it was such a
Exactly.
like we have the mother of dragons and we have Jon Snow. I'm like, where's the baby? Like, why do we not have any of this stuff happening? Like, why is this not a bigger story? Like, I wanted the ending to be so much more.
Yeah.
There's probably some really great fan fiction out there that I probably should read, but I'm just like so bitter.
Ugh.
Um, okay. So, learning from successful stories. That's where I want to kind of analyze some of the well-known books or films like we've talked about with very strong endings. What makes those endings effective? What lessons can a writer draw from their own conclusions? Be your own worst critic to the situation to say, what do I need to do? Like, what isn't fitting? If I was reading this and it's not my work, what would I tell someone to change?
I do this every week with songs, and I'll have as I'm like, and the songwriters I'm working with, they're getting better and better, but in the beginning it's clunky. There's no climax building up to the chorus, and I will make them go study. If I know their voice, I'll listen. I'm like, I need you to go study 20 songs by this artist and this artist and this artist. Tell me the structure, verse, pre-section, chorus, all of that. So it's the same thing with books. Now you may say, but Jamie, Carissa, I don't have 500 years to read 400-page books. Well, don't. I mean, if there's an acclaimed book,
They can listen
if you
to
don't want
it,
to watch it, watch the television show, the movie. I know it's not going to be the same, but the overall
or they
theme,
can listen to it on Audible.
yeah, they could do
You can
that.
hear it. Like, if
They're
you don't have time to read it, just listen to it.
listen to or read authors that are becoming well known that are not writing 400 or 500 page books. Maybe there's a writer writes 250-page books, but follow that structure. See what makes everybody flock to that book.
Mhm.
So, and I know a lot of people, they hate on Stephanie Meyer, or the woman who wrote 50 Shades of Grey, and I've heard a lot of horrible things like, oh, she's horrible. That may be, I don't know, but she still told a story that pulled people in. So what was it about it that pulled them in?
Mhm. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully these tips can help you and maybe get you back on track. So when you feel like everything's falling apart, you can find a way to get back in the groove of getting your story finished and making it the best version of that you can put out for it and get it on the shelves. So,
Just don't quit. I mean, I know
yeah,
it seems like I've quit. I've just taken a long, long vacation.
hiatus.
Hiatus.
All right. So, anyways, if you would like to find out more and watch us on different platforms in your car or on your TV, you can go to alwaysrightpodcast.com. We have icons. You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and you can give us some feedback. Also, if you'd like to email us and you have some thoughts or some ideas, you can email us at alwaysrightpodcast@gmail.com. You can send that through and we should get back to you, or even use one of your show ideas. That would be great. Or if you have,
Absolutely.
yeah, or if you have some thoughts on your things that you've struggled with that you'd like us to share, you can do that.
Yeah, and follow us on Instagram because, and even Chris has got a page. I have a page. Maybe we should list them eventually. Because we do
Well,
give tips.
Jamie, for those who actually follow our podcast, they can see how to find us and connect with us down there in the show notes.
Yes, I knew that. I was just seeing if you did. I bet you ain't got my Instagram since I just added it. Oh, you might have my old one.
Okay. All right. When you go to alwaysrightpodcast.com, we have icons. And so it has, when you go to the little icon, it has us, it literally us
Just
click
always
there.
right. Yes, correct. I'm
Yeah. And if
just
you go
I'm
to
just
that,
screwing with you, and you you should see your
it'll
face.
smack you through the TV.
I'm glad this ain't 3D, video conferencing. You'd be like, I'd be like,
You mean
boom.
4D? This is
Dude,
3D. This would be
like you
3D.
could stick your hand through.
That's 4D.
How's this 3D? You're flat.
I'm not flat. You can see the dimensions of my face.
Okay, wait a
Flat would
minute.
be a two-dimensional drawing. Yes, I can see three-dimensionally.
I come from the 80s where you got to wear the 3D glasses and everything pops out. To me, that's
Yeah,
3D.
okay, but 4D. We're gonna talk 4D. I'm coming through the TV at you.
So that's like
Woo!
the ring. So she came out in 4 dimensions.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. All righty. Until next time, I'm author Carissa DeLay.
And I think I'm author Jamie Vendera.
Yes. And until then, always right.